How much do you dive into femininity? Because, that's a huge part of the equation. Obviously, we all as men had relationships with our mothers and with women in our life that also shape our character. And if you're heterosexual, will shape your future relationships significantly. It's a huge part of the equation. Now that I have kids and I'm raising them, I see more clearly the power of the male energy and the female energy. It also allows me to parent as a father, knowing that I'm bringing something unique to the table and something that's necessary, and they're going to get plenty of female energy from mom, which means that I can concentrate on my hardcore male energy. And I see that. And I also, strangely enough, can really value female energy in the room and in all sorts of things, in business and all sorts of ways, where it's like, wow, this woman does a better job than I could at this. Or this woman,
Yeah.
I'm so glad she's working for us because none of the guys can do that job. Or I'm so glad we got some female energy in the room right now because we really need that. And then sometimes there's crossover too. Sometimes, it's like, all right, I better channel a little female energy vibe here right now with the boys, because right now this is not the time to be hardcore, and maybe
Mm.
vice versa. So is that something you think about? Because it feels like you're going to have to think about that for your work.
hmm Yeah, I mean, I think there's sort of two parts for it. One is beginning to cultivate a kind of reverence for women and for feminine energy externally, right? Whether that's, your setting your relationship right with your mom, having reverence for the women that you're with or dating or working with, and really beginning to admire, respect, and I'm just going to come back to the word reverence, like have reverence for what they bring that might be different than you, and the qualities and the strengths that might be different but are equal in many ways. And then the second thing is beginning to understand your own relationship to the feminine within you. So one of the challenges that's happening in our modern culture is that men are either hyper feminized and they're what I call very feminine forward in their identity and their nature and their characteristics, or they have almost completely like disconnected and disassociated from any type of feminine qualities or traits. And that's not healthy either. If you look at like the Spartans, for example, part of Spartan training for the warriors that were, supposedly some of the greatest warriors in existence, part of their training was learning how to use a sword, learning how to use a shield, go to battle, combine, lock arms and shields together and yada, yada. But the other part was learning how to play the lyre, how to write poetry, how to dance. Like these were some of the greatest warriors in existence who were also having to learn some of these more feminine traits. And so I think this really is, I don't want to use the word balance, but I think for a lot of men, it's about cultivating and developing both, being able to develop some of that more masculine assertiveness and directness and kind of being unapologetic sometimes and holding your ground and being confrontational, but then also being able to embody a more nurturing, caring, compassionate way of being. And for a lot of men, where that starts is with themselves. Like I said, so many men have such a harsh inner dialogue. And what is actually necessary is a type of mothering of themselves, which means that they start to bring some compassion into how they speak with themselves, not letting themselves off the hook, not like, diluting their sense of accountability, but not beating the living crap out of themselves every time something goes wrong, and beginning to have some type of self-empathy and self-compassion and self-understanding. And you might find value in it's why I do photography, right? It's a very creative outlet for me. You might write poetry. I try and write as often as I can because I like it. It's a beautiful expression. I mean, there's many different ways. You might want to dance. You might want to sing. You might want to, pick up an instrument and learn how to play the piano or the violin or the guitar. But having some type of an outlet for you to cultivate your own relationship with your own feminine nature internally, because if you don't, you will externalize that. And you will project that onto the women that you date. That's a whole other conversation that I write about in the book. But if you don't have a relationship with your own feminine nature, you will try and get those things from women. And so what a lot of guys do is, I lack self-compassion. I'm super harsh with myself. I treat myself like crap. And then they get into a relationship with a woman, and what do? I need you to love me. I need you to be gentle with me. I need you to be soft and compassionate with me constantly and never disappointed, because I'm so brutal to myself that I cannot bear you being disappointed or harsh with me in any way, shape, or form. And so when we develop that within, then we need it less outside of ourselves.
Powerful stuff there, Connor. Super powerful. Weirdly, I started dancing about 6 years ago, and it's been this crazy adventure for me into the feminine. Now, some people might not say breakdancing is feminine, but it's a form of self-expression. When I was a kid, I was terrified to dance, like terrified as a young kid. I couldn't even comprehend being judged on something like that, and it was always more of the male stuff, and I'm going to study hard, I'm going to do this. So, but it's been fascinating to watch myself go down this road and just to try to be comfortable expressing, because when you express yourself like that, you open yourself up to being judged maybe. And so it's been beautiful, and I love it. And now, we make films, and like we create art, and now I wear colors I used to never wear. It was always black and blue, and now all these crazy things that I'm like experimenting with now and having fun with. And like sometimes I just wear these crazy ass colors, and I'm just like, I'm just like brightening up the room a little bit. Let's go. And so it's this fun side that I'm exploring, and I'm so glad, because that was all locked down before. It was all like serious and let's go get it. And so I'm really glad you brought that up. I also had really powerful women in my life as a kid, grandmas who were just amazing. Grandmas who, like without them, I don't know what we would have done, just taking care of business, handling things, just everything was just on point. So that's an important thing for sure. And to be able to see the feminine energy. And then, like what does mom do when you hurt yourself? She gives you a big hug. And one thing I see when my boys hurt their thing, they run right past me. They're not looking for me. They want mom. And sometimes maybe you need to recognize that about yourself, and maybe, give yourself a little bit of that.
How do you get out of a rat race? How do you create wealth not only for yourself, but also for the generations to come after?
I am absolutely amazed with the quality of companies that we're getting exposure to.
We go on to Zoom calls with the innovators and the folks who are building new applications in metaverse, blockchain, artificial intelligence, decentralized finance.
What's going on, everybody? Thumbs up if you can see me.
We are focusing on early stage investment.
And the quality of people that we're getting exposure to, whether it be Dan Tapiero with 1RT, Jason Ma from Open, Yatsu from Animoca.
It's been a phenomenal experience thus far. It has far exceeded my expectations.
We are focusing on cutting edge technologies.
I view it now as the best investment I've ever made. The upside I view is unlimited.
And as a retail investor, I would never get this exposure anywhere else outside of Investment Club.
See you in the Investment Club.